Hi, and welcome to the next episode of the Ready List podcast. My name is Sue Merry. I'm an Alexander Technique teacher and founder member of Educare Small School. In fact, today is Educare's 28th birthday. We opened in 1997, the year I was 40. So this is quite terrifying when you work out what that means in terms of my age. I'll leave you to do that sum. So, in the last episode of the podcast, we talked a little bit about constructive rest, and then I followed that up with a bonus episode, which was just a talk through, as if you were having a lesson with me on constructive rest. And I promised at the end of the regular episode that we'd now start to look at emotional intelligence. So that's what we're going to do. But I'm thinking, sorry again, sniffing, because it is a bit chilly out here. It's still the winter. It's February, and I'm out in Richmond Park, and it's a little bit on the chilly side. It's sunny but brisk. So to start us off then with emotional intelligence, I want to just do a couple of short podcasts on the nervous system. The reason being that I think what I'm going to talk about and how I'm going to tie up what we've already learned and what we're going to learn a bit more about, which is the embodied side of the embodied emotional intelligence promise at the beginning of this entire podcast series. We're going to look at the embodied side again, but I just want to go through a little bit of tying up sort of why the nervous system, the way the nervous system sort of functions in its structure, why I think the Ready List and the A Team are very significant, and some of the reasons perhaps why they are so effective, but also just understanding the whole thing a bit more. Now, if this is like really boring to you and you don't want to know anything at all about the nervous system, you could skip this, but I think you'll be missing out on a bit of value if you do it. So let's I'm really going to give a very, very simple sketch of the nervous system. Just remind yourselves, I'm not a scientist or a medical person. I've learned a lot about this from working on myself and others and my own experiences, and obviously of reading up on things. And stuff does change quite a lot. I'm going to start my little discourse on the nervous system with a quote from William James. You can Google him to find out more about him if you're interested. I think he was considered to be the father of psychology. So William James, he wrote this around about 1887. The greatest thing then in all education is to make our nervous system our ally as opposed to our enemy. So the greatest thing then in all education is to make our nervous system our ally as opposed to our enemy. Well, that is so true. I've had my nervous system be an enemy, and it's no fun. It's like a sort of fascist dictatorship ruling your life. And I guess this quote could be the theme of the Ready List podcast, making our nervous systems our ally as opposed to our enemy. Okay, I'm going to work on the basis that you know absolutely nothing about the nervous system, and so apologies if you know loads about it. A lot is known about the structure of the nervous system, but not as much less, in fact, about exactly how it all works. Let's start with the structure anyway. So the building block of the nervous system is the neuron, which is a cell. And there's different types, but they've all got the same structure. So one end of them, they've got dendrites, and the other end, axon terminals. So you imagine them being like a tree with branches at one end and roots at the other. And the dendrites of one neuron connect up with the axon terminals of another in order for them to pass electrical signals through the nervous system. So there are 128 billion neurons in the human brain, and each one's got thousands of dendrites and axon terminals. And at certain times in childhood, that number is approximately double. So that's a really big number if you think about it in terms of how many possibilities there are for neurons to join, to make connections with each other. They don't actually touch. There's like a little gap between a dendrite and an axon terminal, and across that little gap, that's called a synapse. There's a chemical called a neurotransmitter, and it's a bit like an electrical, I don't know, spark jumping from one terminal to the other across the gap. So it means, though, all these dendrites, axon terminals, and neurons, that there's more possible connections in the human brain than there are atoms in the known universe. What? I know. I had to check that fact about 100 times. But to give you some idea about how big an atom is, right, is that if you take a glass of water, there are more atoms in a glass of water than there are glasses of water in all the oceans of the world. At least that's according to Jim Al-Khalili in his book Atom, and also in the TV series on the same topic. Again, that's one of those things you go, what? So I don't know if artificial intelligence might move things along a bit faster, but presently, no one's much idea really how even a maggot brain works, and that's only got 302 simple neurons with 7,000 possible connections. So we're a bit of a long way off. Some people estimate at least 50 years from understanding how the actions of one neuron will affect all, the whole, as it were, in a reliable and repeatable way. So anyway, because humans like to categorize things, the nervous system is usually considered to have divisions. And so there's the central nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which is basically all the other bits. So nerves outside of, but linking to, the central nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system has also got 3 divisions, but we're just mostly concerned with one of them when learning and practicing the ready list and the A team. So one system controls voluntary movements, the other one controls the goings on in the gut. Possibly that's also got to do with stuff going on with the mind, but that's kind of research ongoing, I think. But the bit we're interested in is the automatic bit, which is called the autonomic nervous system, the ANS for short. And that controls involuntary functions of the body, such as your heart rate, your breathing, your blood pressure, your temperature, etc. And it also controls your response to threat, which is kind of crucial in looking at the info we're going to be looking at. So the ANS is not in your direct control. And I'm sorry, but the autonomic nervous system is also divided. There's the sympathetic nervous system. Now that's like, if you imagine that being like an accelerator in a car, speeds things up. And then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, which is like a brake. So I think I'll refer to them as the accelerator and brake in the future. So I think that's probably quite a lot for you to think about, and enough for this slice of the nervous system pie. So this is quite a short podcast because I don't think it's very productive to overload people with too much information. And in the next podcast, I'm going to give a simple guide to the purpose of your brain. What's it for? Also, we'll look at the very weird way in which it functions to achieve its purpose. So have a think about what you believe to be the purpose of your brain before next time. Sounds a bit like a cliffhanger, doesn't it? Anyway, someone's just coming along now. You can probably hear them. So, and couple of lovely dogs. And so I'm going to sign off. Thanks for listening. My name's Sue Mary. Hopefully I'll see you in the next podcast where we look at the weird and wonderful world of what your brain's for. Thank you for listening.